First step, couples who are attempting to soften something they already know will land heavily tend to chuckle in this way. The music stops. The lighting is pleasant. For a brief while, the atmosphere in the room is almost funny, as if two individuals are challenging one another to utter something dangerous aloud. They are seated close together, grinning, and at ease on the surface, but behind it is that recognizable hum. The tense tension that appears just before a truth breaks free, the kind you get when someone has practiced being honest in their mind but never put it to the test in public. After that, it falls. They acknowledge that they had different bedrooms, not for a difficult time, not for a difficult month, not for a crisis, and not for longer than 2 years. Abruptly, the atmosphere shifts. The audience's inhalation is practically audible, because even in a time when excessive sharing is commonplace, some realities still startle people, particularly when they directly conflict with expectations. They initially say these things casually, almost dismissively, as if they're trying to see if they'll blow up if they say them too bluntly. Now we're back in the same bedroom, but before that, we were in separate rooms on and off for over 2 years, adds one of them. 2 years. 2 years doesn't sound like a phase. Rather, it sounds like a strategy, a warning, or a quiet survival plan that no one outside the marriage was supposed to see. Which is why that number lingers longer than it should. They laugh once more, but this time it's not the same. Looser around the edges, like a sense of relief, like finally sharing the information that others weren't supposed to know. They then report the response from the internet. How unleashing that truth caused chaos. Not worry, not interest, nor indignation. They talk of folks emerging from the woodwork and behaving as though they had made a moral transgression. For example, it was against the institution of marriage itself to choose sleep over custom. You would have assumed that we had doomed the devil. After one of them makes a joke, the detail that sharpens everything is revealed. Especially ladies who are over 55. They chuckle, refer to them as the Golden Girls. There's something sharper behind the humor, because age isn't what they're actually talking about. It's identity. A generation that was brought up with rules. Standards regarding beds are similar to standards about what marriage should look like. Guidelines regarding sacrifice. Endurance regulations. Furthermore, it no longer feels like a personal decision when those guidelines are questioned. It feels like a danger, because this is the line that makes the entire space cooler. Marriage has no rules. You do what keeps you sane and what works for you. It doesn't seem radical until you consider who it poses a threat to. Anyone who derived their sense of value from doing things correctly. Anyone who didn't get enough sleep felt self-centered. Anyone who believed that hardship equated to dedication. The hosts dismiss it with a laugh. However, since this isn't really about bedrooms, the tension still increases. It has to do with control. It has to do with who gets to decide what constitutes a successful marriage. Does surviving in private matter more than public appearances? At that point, the discussion delves much further. Because a pair enters this already heated space, whose the story has nothing to do with snoring or sleep routines. It has to do with being absent. As anticipated, Yandy and Mendeecees Harris take their seats, at least on the outside. They present a unified front with well-coordinated attire and polished energy, but their bodies convey a different message. They take their time settling in, comfort and caution together, like people whose chapter isn't just marriage after lockdown, and who are aware of how rapidly a conversation may change once certain doors open. After serving time in prison, it's marriage. After years of forced separation, love has been rebuilt. It's going back to a house that has figured out how to live without you. People talk about Yandy's loyalty as if it were a costume, something to be applauded. But what comes out doesn't feel romantic when the questioning becomes more pointed and the laughter subsides. It has a testimonial quality, because even the hosts are hesitant when the topic of timeframes finally comes up. They begin elucidating specifics. 15 years together, 6 years married, divorced, and then remarried. That tells you everything on its own. A couple selling fantasy is not what this is. Describes a couple that had to repeatedly exploit each other in situations that completely destroyed illusion. They make jokes about clothes, but they can't remember how long they've been dating. It functions as a pressure valve because if you get too serious too quickly, the entire falls apart. Even the little things, like Yandy choosing Mendeecees' attire, have significance. It's a signal as well as a humorous gesture. Together, we make the decision. We work together. We're in sync. However, alignment is brittle, and when the topic of discussion returns to what initially sparked it all, the atmosphere swiftly changes. Two strangers, different bedrooms, sleep. That sounds like decay and remoteness. It resembles the start of the end. It is presented differently in this room as a trade-off, a strategy, and a triage. You take the kids on Monday. I receive rest on Tuesday, not punishment, not a rejection. Sanity. Additionally, Yandy and Mendeecees don't show shock. They're spawned with acknowledgement, because Mendeecees fails to provide a poetic response. He delivers a weary one. I can't sleep because of her. Not in the sense of a dramatic battle. In a routine, everyday manner, while his body is shutting down. Phones are glowing, speaker calls are being made, and energy is still flowing. Suddenly, this has nothing to do with romance or treachery. Erosion is the issue. The slow invisible kind is dotted. The type that occurs when two individuals who are in love yet have distinct biological clocks. He claims that Kim becomes irritable, and aloof when she doesn't get enough sleep. 8 hours of memory regeneration are provided by the doctor. Everyone is aware of the effects of sleep deprivation. So when someone uses the word torture, it hits harder than anticipated. Prison metaphors are not necessary to comprehend it. Love can become annoyance after just 1 week of inactivity. Love can become resentment in a single year. Betrayal is not the only reason why marriages fail. They occasionally shatter because no one ever slept. None of it is denied by Yandy. She embraces her identity, jokes about losing things while holding them, and about memory, about her innate state of turmoil. But there's confession underneath the humor. The body maintains a score. The brain maintains a score. Everything turns become a trigger when rest vanishes. The discussion then proceeds as honest couples always do when speaking the truth in public. They change their focus to little things. Counters, bathrooms, closets, junk, and socks, because every little detail reveals a bigger pattern. The battlefield gets smaller, but the stakes remain the same. One individual navigates life like a race, while the other does so like a system. At this point, the episode shifts from being about relationships to something darker since they are no longer fighting over mess. They are under pressure to negotiate. They are charting the transformation of love into logistics. Show how love turns into management. Yandy doesn't offer justifications. She provides answers. She acknowledges that he is driven insane by the mess. She thus takes care of the housekeeper, not as capitulation, not as guilt, but as rule. She says, "Give me